Hey everyone, welcome back. I need to dive right into this one because this is going to be a really interesting time as far as federal workers, positions that may be opening up within cybersecurity as well. Because we're talking about a lot of agencies and we're talking about a lot of federal agencies. Now, some of you may not be like interested in government positions, but the dynamics of this is really unique because everyone knows in the past that government jobs, government positions has always been really protected, whether it's through the union, and it's just been really cushy and people stay there for years and years because you kind of just grow with it, right? You have a position that you get hired into. The benefits are great. You get a pension, you get great health benefits. The reason why I know is because I work for the state. I mean, I know, and I used to work for the city. Healthcare is practically free, right? You don't pay any type of value or prices above your just deduction from your paycheck, even if there's even a deduction, right? So there's no the copays are like pennies to the dollar, and it just makes sense if you're content with those type of jobs, especially if they're coming in at market value. So I do want to dive a little deeper and explain exactly what is going on because I have probably a little more firsthand experience working for the government. I'm not a federal employee, although most recently I have been bombarded in my inbox when all the federal positions that I ever applied to has been kicked back and said that the role has no longer in effect, or it's been canceled, or is in hold, whatever the verbiage was on those emails, but it just all came in. And this probably, I'm not even gonna say probably, most likely had to do with all this. So let's go a little deeper into this right now. Trump offers all federal workers a buyout with nearly 8 months' pay. Now, I thought that was insane. Like, I've never heard of any government positions offering any type of incentive when either you leave or you obey by the rules, right? And the rules are changing, and that's the difficult part. It's like you can't just say you're going to change the rules on us and then kick us out. And on top of that, supposedly, you know, the Trump administration, current administration is saying that, we want to remove that contingency where federal employees are protected. Like having the ability to get rid of someone or fire someone. Really, really rare in the government sector. What normally happens, and you've probably heard this before, if not, if you work for a government agency, and you're like under suspension, or you have these allegations against you, or something that you committed, like unless it's like a hideous crime, right? But if it's not, you kind of get thrown into a rubber room, and that rubber room is just, you sit there, you don't have to do anything, you still get paid full benefits and everything, but you don't get any kind of penalties. You can't get fired because it's a government job. And I think right now Trump is trying to change all that. So let's dive a little deeper into why is this relevant to anyone working in IT, cybersecurity, plus more. All right, because it's not just those two categories, IT and cybersecurity, even though most people lump them as one. A lot of positions, and for a percentage of this high percentage in the federal government that is being forced supposedly to go back into the office or leave, and then you get to choose between getting an 8 months severance package. It's supposedly being done all through email, and you either say yay or nay, and that's how it's taking effect. So let's see right here. The email sent to millions of employees said that those who leave their post voluntarily will receive an 8 months salary, but they have to choose to do so by February 6th. And that's coming really close. That's next week, guys. And on top of that, I just want to mention February 7th, I have jury duty. My goodness. I think that's a federal thing also. But anyway, no one's stopping work. It's just that, work is still going on, but a lot of things have to be in place to support if a lot of people decide to, opt in and accept this severance package and leave the federal government, because that's going to affect a lot of agencies. And I do want to go through more details because right now it's estimated being sent more than 2 million federal employees. Can you imagine, even if 50% of the 2 million federal employees said, all right, I'm going to take this 8 months, I'll find a private job. Now, I want to give an example of why anyone would possibly, even in the slightest of their mind, think about considering this. One, you're close to retirement, and it makes perfect sense. Let's just say, hypothetically, I had 6 months left on my retirement. I'm leading a full team, and you're going to give me 8 months severance package if I leave now, opposed to me just, leaving in 6 months that I already had pre-planned, right? It makes sense. Or I'll give you this example. You have a whole year out. You haven't announced officially your retirement, but now you're being presented with a 8 months incentive of full pay, because you wouldn't even get this if you left on your own on your retirement. The only thing you would be relying on is any type of, retirement income, like 401ks, 403bs, and the pension, right? From most federal, and I'm going to say most federal because I know most city and state have pensions, so I can only assume federal has pensions as well. And the thing is like, if you already pre-planned your retirement, it hasn't been officially documented, it hasn't been said, and now you're being presented with this 8 month incentive plus pay all of your 8 months. Why not? Right? It only makes sense. So those are two scenarios. Three, you're not interested in returning back to the office or wherever the office is, whatever state it's in, and you didn't sign up for that. You were trying to be more flexible, having a full remote, because most of these federal employees apparently are full remote. Now, I know of a position that I did in the past. I sat in the interview. The position was for full remote. CISA. CISA was the federal agency that does cybersecurity and all that. And I was like, okay. And they were telling me, I didn't get the job, but they were telling me that you would probably just, float around to different organizations and do briefings. I say, awesome, right? And where would you work out of ultimately? Well, from your own home. And then whenever they need you to go to a office somewhere, and then you would just take up and go. I mean, they do travel. That's was one of the things that you had to do. You had to travel, but there was no dedicated office. Reason why there was no dedicated office was because there was no office, like, to begin with. So I'm not sure if they're calling back 2 million people. Can you think about it logistically? Where are these 2 million people are going to sit? Unless they have the facilities and the seating arrangements already there, I don't think they can accommodate for the most part. I mean, I've heard organizations struggle just to bring back, 100 employees, let alone 2 million. So they really have to think this through. Unless they already did, I'm not sure. There was no detail like, what's the seating arrangements going to be like, or the office arrangements? Is everyone going to be stacked on top of each other? Is it going to be stressful? Is it going to be annoying? Are you going to be like, shoulder to shoulder with someone? No privacy. You can't even get on a phone call. And even if you do get on a phone call, everyone else is speaking around you and you can't even concentrate. Like, there's pros and cons to both working in the office and working at home. But I've noticed, because I do both, I'm a hybrid. When I'm in the office, I'm on a call in a meeting, and there's tons and tons of people, background noise, and like I'm trying to concentrate, but you're not always there. But when you're home and you're on a call, I have my full attention and I'm fully aware of what's going on, and I know everyone, is in the same position when they're working remotely. So I just want to put that out there. But anyway, what's more interesting is 2 million federal employees, 3 million is employed currently. So 2 out of the 3 million got this notice to return back to the office, which is insane, which makes it roughly the nation's 15th largest workforce. The average tenure for a federal employee is nearly 12 years. I do want to kind of elaborate more on why 12 years, like I said earlier, is because of the benefits, right? Usually, I'm familiar with, city and federal, is that after 5 years, it changed after, the pandemic. After 5 years, you're vested into the pension. So you actually get pension money even though if you leave after 5 years, and then you would actually, until your retirement age, you can actually start collecting a pension after 5 years of service with any federal government agency. Now, it used to be 10, okay? And then it used to be 10 for healthcare. So after you do your 10 years, you're vested in the healthcare and the pension. But that changed during COVID change. I forget the exact details why, because it was an incentive. I believe that was the incentive for people to join the government agency because they lowered the acceptance of pension, how many years you can do or work before you receive a pension. So it was 5 years. So it started making more sense for the younger crowd and be like, oh, I don't have to stay here for 10 years. I could just do 5. Let's see how that works out. But then they're guaranteed that they at least have you for 5 because that's the incentive. That was the pro to doing all that. Did it work? It kind of worked. It kept me for there for a little longer, and I was like, oh wow, I'm vested now. So let me continue on. Let me build on top of it. Let me compound this pension that we have going on. So 12-year tenure is a common number. It makes sense. A lot of people actually, a lot of government workers I know personally has been at these positions, jumping around internally, maybe to different agencies, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and then they just retire from there. Like that's their whole life in government sector, which is really interesting when you think about it, because it just shows you how stable, how much benefits you get, not just compensation, not just money wise, right? Usually people complain about government work, salaries are lower than private. But when you start calculating the benefits, like the health benefits and the medical, like all those benefits that you have to pay out of pocket for certain things, or when your deductible is a lot higher and you're still paying 20% out of the final bill, usually government workers don't have to face any of that. For instance, a family member working in government had a surgery, and it was like $100 because of a hospital stay, right? A lot of organizations, private organizations, don't have that luxury where you still have to pay your deductible, which is like $6,000 before the insurance kicks in. And even after the insurance kicks in, you have to pay 20% of that. I know I'm going a lot more detail than what we are expected to talk about as far as, jobs and all that. So what does that mean for the current sector, right? So I want to point out a few other things here. Now, those were the key things. 8 months severance. People usually stay for a long time. They sent out 2 million emails to all these individuals, and now they have a deadline of February 6th to respond back. If you don't, that means you're going to go back into the office, right? I don't know what unions or standing behind the employees that may try to negotiate this, but it seems like a hard negotiation. Trump has, and his administration with Elon Musk. And one thing with Elon Musk, and I want to say this right now, is that apparently he has experience doing this to his Twitter organization that used to be Twitter, now it's X. So it's a lot of crazy things going on. The other thing is, right now, the union of the federal workers are saying this is a big, huge mistake. You're going to impact every agency under the federal, mandate, that it's going to disrupt a lot of services to people like us, meaning the Americans, the U.S. Americans, agencies that support the U.S. Americans. So one thing I wanted to also show you guys is one. Before I go into listing out, I wanted to use DeepSeek this time. I was testing. I did it with ChatGPT and it worked perfectly. And I'll do it right now. You know what? Let's just do it right now. List me all the U.S. Federal agencies. All right, let's see what they give us. ChatGPT did a great job at this. I had to refine my wording in order to get it in the actual list. I was shocked and I was surprised on how many agencies there are out there. DeepSeek seems to be a little slow right now, but while it's doing that, if it doesn't do it, we'll go back to ChatGPT. But check this out. So USA Jobs is a lot of federal jobs. These are the positions that are posted. Now, again, I want to remind you, even though these are posted right now, I believe a lot of them are on a freeze because of the current situation. Now, I won't be surprised that a lot of these positions will come right back available really soon by February 6th and on, because by then they'll have a head count of how many people are opting to accept that 8-month severance package and leaving the federal workforce. Now, here's the other thing though. If that does happen, these jobs, full-time, permanent, will not one of them will ever say remote again, because I assure you, in the past, a lot of these positions would say remote, remote, remote. If you look here, remote jobs, only show remote jobs, done. Exclude remote jobs. That's everything now. They have already changed it. In the past, if you filtered only show remote jobs, boom, hundreds, thousands of jobs that are there. Not just cybersecurity, but everything under the federal government as far as a position. A lot of them were just open. The reason why I feel like it was a lot of remote jobs was because they have to travel. They actually do travel. And if DeepSeek, the server is busy. All right, you know what? Screw you, DeepSeek. I'm a little disappointed now. Although we can always get into another video with that. Let me just log into my ChatGPT now, and let's get some answers. I don't understand why they're taking so long. All right, let's see. I have to disconnect my VPN. Probably that's why. Let's see if it works again. List me all the U.S. federal agencies. Maybe it was my VPN that created that issue. But anyway, all right, I'm doing it on chat right now as we speak. All right, come on, it's taking too long. So I do want to show you additional input from Elon Musk himself, because it was interesting to see that, like I mentioned earlier, that he did that with X, with the current X, which was Twitter previously. And it was like, he basically, he's running the show. I don't want to say it like that, but like Elon is running this particular show, even though, Trump is mandating it. And it seems to be a huge issue. Now, the one caveat to all this is, why are they doing this? What goal are they trying to achieve? Apparently, it's $100 billion in savings if they do. Now, I couldn't comprehend that, and I couldn't find anything that was even relevant to explaining that. How do you save $100 billion in funds or whatever it is, just by telling federal employees to go back into the office? I think the logic, and the most reasonable logic that I found online, was that if whoever, like these federal workers, some of them may accept the severance package, and it's basically a way to filter out the non-productive employees. And like I said in the beginning, was that a lot of government workers are pretty protected, meaning you can't just fire them, right? But if they leave on their own, that reduces your head count. And if that reduces your head count, 8-month severance package is a lot cheaper than paying your salary for the next 10 years. And they may not even rehire for a lot of those positions. That's where they're getting at, because they feel like the whole government agencies, a lot of them, are just fluffed, meaning there's more people than they really need, and they just been hiring just because they have money to hire. Federal government, remember, it's taxpayers' money. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It doesn't generate any revenue besides taking the money out of our pockets. So that's the downside to all this. So let me show you guys really quick. I had already done my homework previously on my phone. I said, give me a list of all the the federal list all of the departments and positions, right? After I asked ChatGPT, list me all the federal jobs, it gave me a bunch of jobs, and it says go to usajobs.com and whatever. And so I asked it wrong. I said, give me all the list of jobs. These are just current jobs and what's available. I said, give me a list of all the departments and positions. So this is where it starts telling me, wow, look at this. I did not realize all these agencies even existed. So like the articles said, it's one of the largest employment in the world. Look at this: Homeland Security, Department of Veteran Affairs, Department of Education, Department of Energy, blah blah blah. Keep on going. And each one of these agencies is probably close to thousands of employees. So you think of it in perspective, 2 million emails going out to 2/3 of the workforce of the government federal agency. That's just federal. That doesn't even include state. That doesn't even include city. This is federal, specifically federal. So yeah, there's a lot of agencies out there. There's hundreds. Let me list me all the federal agencies, federal U.S. agencies. Let's see if it I really want a true list. I just don't want it to keep on telling me more stuff. Oh, all right. Yeah, that's right. I do remember the source. If we go to the source, I forgot where I went. Oh, here it is. So A to Z, all the U.S. government departments and agencies. My goodness, right? I never even knew a lot of these existed. It just boggles my mind. So the administration feels like there's a lot of cleanup and a lot of wasted money, revenue, whatever it is, going to a lot of these. And some of them are probably not as important as others, but they had a presidential White House briefing explaining that not every agency is going to get affected. And, there's a lot of stipulations in between. It's not a one solution for all, right? But they're trying to just tackle it from the top down. The biggest culprit is too many people, and then start filtering down. And if they need resources to backfill those, they will hire accordingly, and it'll be vetted really, really tight, meaning it's not going to be as easy as it was a couple years ago or a year ago, right? The other thing on top of that, I want to end it here, is that Trump is making it, well, maybe not just Trump, but his whole administration and the thought process of this is that trying to make federal employees, not just, maybe it'll affect other government agencies, besides federal, maybe state and city. But right now, what they're trying to focus on, one of the things is, in the articles, is that they want to make it where these federal employees is, not as protected. I guess that's what they're trying to, meaning if there's someone who's not a performer, like they have the ability to fire them, right? That's what he's trying to ultimately get at. And the reason for this approach right now, he doesn't have the right to fire people. You can't just start pulling people out and start firing them like what Elon Musk did to his private companies, because those are at will employment. Most government jobs are not at will employment, meaning they can't just say, okay, we're letting you go. You better have a damn good reason why someone from the federal government is being fired. And it's a process. Like, is that discrimination? Is that like a manager taking kind of like like a backlash because of something, an argument, or taking things personal? It's just so many factors. But in short, they're trying to change that policy where government people, government workers are not as protected. So that goes back to a lot of interesting things going forward. If that is the case, if that takes over, so what are the, some people may look at it like, what's the benefits of working for the government? I might as well work for private, make more money. I mean, it has to trade off. There's definitely has to be a trade off between working for private and the government. I've been working for the government. If I do a full calculation, I have been with government for 8 years now. And I know a little bit. I know, and I'm still learning about it. So I do find this really intriguing because it's familiar with things that I know that I've been exposed to in the culture, right? You work with people in the government agencies versus working in private, which I have done as well. You can see the difference in culture and but certain times you find individuals, whether it's in private or in public, they're the same, right? Their work habits are the same. You sit there sometimes wondering like, why, how the hell did this guy get hired, right? And it applies to both scenarios. Maybe someone would say that about me too. So I don't have no idea. But I do want to say, in short, after all I've said today on this video, is that there may be a potential that a lot of new cybersecurity jobs are going to show up because of all of this, right? These positions may start showing up. The salary may be very competitive to private, but just remember, there is no more federal remote jobs for cybersecurity. And that may change within time, maybe 4 years later after all this may come back because maybe something else might happen and everyone has to be remote for whatever reason. But as it stands right now, the times are shifting. One of the key things that was mentioned was that, the pandemic was over 5 years ago. It's time for a new change. A lot of people have been sitting on these positions, abusing their privilege of just staying full remote and not being productive. How they calculate that, performance reviews, whatever it is, I'm not sure. They didn't go into the details. There are a lot of details missing from all this. Why all of a sudden this is coming up? But I can only speculate unless there's deeper dive articles coming from the White House as far as the reasoning behind all this, or any other articles. Most of the articles that you're going to find today is just talking about they got an email and severance package of 8 days. Are they going to take it or not? And explaining some cost, but figuring out how this all initiated and what the benefits going forward, it may have a huge impact on services if you're relying on them now. So I'm just putting that all out there. And, if this affects you, please comment below and let me know if this has any relevance to possibly what you're going through personally or, through agencies that you're working with. Because remember, government hires a lot of private consulting firms as well, vendors or whatnot. That's private, but being a public company, that's what they do, right? The government sector has they use Microsoft, they use CrowdStrike, they use all these other companies as well that they need to rely on to support them. And that's just on the cybersecurity IT side. That's not even including payroll, HR, and all the other stuff. So again, thank you guys so much. And hopefully today is the Chinese New Year and I am celebrating, but I decided just to do a video since I'm still up. I took off of work today, so hopefully you can enjoy this. And comment below. Let me know what your thoughts on all this. I know this has been a long video, but I thought it was really with the times of employment and a good percentage would be related to cybersecurity, considering there's 200 emails that went out to these people who are either have to go back to the office or take the 8-month severance package. All right. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys again really soon. Take care.